Lou here. One subject I've been talking about a lot with friends and others online is the topic of a redeemed villain. I thought it'd be fun to talk about what makes a good redeemed villain and what makes a bad redeemed villain. Roll the intro and let's get started. Rather than talking about bullet points, I'll be going over characters who are great examples of villains with wonderfully written redemptions, poorly written redemptions, and ones that definitely needed more time to develop and how to improve on that. Hopefully, it'll actually help some people with their own stories too. Though, just a fair warning, I don't like Naruto and I haven't seen Inuyasha since I was 7, so I won't be including any Naruto characters or Sesshomaru here. Though, trust me, I wanted just an excuse to look at Sesshomaru's pretty face, but I have no idea what I'm talking about with Inuyasha, so I wouldn't understand what's happening. Also, spoilers for quite a few anime series, so just be warned of that. Alright, let's start. When we meet Greed, he's quite literally the description of the sin itself. He wants to gain immortal life just because he wants everything he hears about. So he kidnaps Alphonse to try and make him confess on how he's immortal in that suit of armor. This would result in a rough fight, and eventually he's killed by Father and absorbed back into him. He was a pretty generic villain in the manga, and honestly in the 2003 anime too. I know people simp the 2003 anime, but let's be honest, that Greed's whole character in the 2003 anime was just so Edward could get traumatized for killing him or something. No offense to those who like the 2003 anime, I just don't particularly like it. Yet when Edward and Ling are captured by Father, Ling agrees to Father in letting Greed possess him, where his path of redemption really begins. The interesting part is that when Greed is revived, he doesn't remember anything about himself for a majority of this revival, until he eventually remembers killing one of his closest friends and Ling's arguing with him about it. The main jumping off point overall is this relationship with Ling, who has the same levels of ambition as Greed since Ling wants to become emperor, but his heart aligns with Edward's where he wants what's best for everyone. Essentially, it's a selfish person learning to be selfless. Greed's character development is slow and calculated. He doesn't fully change as a character, more like his actions are almost toned down because he's learning the value of friendship and fighting for others. Hell, by the time Greed dies, he realizes that all he ever really wanted was friends. As ironic as it is, his death is actually a sacrifice, which is a complete turnaround for him. Overall, Greed is a great redeemable villain. While he isn't the worst in this video, he's a great starting point to anyone learning the basics of writing a redeemed villain, for sure. This is a redemption arc I think needs more time. While I despise Endeavor as a character because he's a huge dick, and I overall don't think he needed a redemption arc, I can understand that logically a redemption arc was bound to happen anyway for someone like him. I explained more of this in a video talking about characters I don't like if you want to check that out, so be sure to check out that video if you're new here. Endeavor is absolute scum of the earth from what we know of him. He paid for a quirk marriage, which is an arranged marriage to marry someone for their quirk. Where he tried his best to charm her, there was warning signs right away. He married her because he knew he could never surpass All Might, but he knew he could make a child that would surpass All Might's abilities 10 times over if he married someone with the right quirk that could make his own pretty much perfect. The problem with Endeavor's quirk is that he can't use it at full blast unless he wants to burn himself alive. So he was searching for a woman with a ice quirk that could give him a child that was basically a half hot, half cold quirk, since some children gain quirks that are a mix of both parents. They would have Toya, who he'd train even though he didn't seem worthy. They had 2 more children who he also didn't deem worthy. Toya's training was a failure because his own quirk was both stronger than his, and his quirk had a downside of burning him too easily. This caused him to purposefully neglect his son, who began to lash out at him for the sudden neglect, and obviously neglected his two other children too. When Shoto was born with the right quirk, he pretty much separated his son from his siblings to brutally train him, pretty much physically beating him even at the age of 4. Shoto's existence caused his oldest son to hate him, and that burning hatred caused him to run away and attempt to kill himself. After this incident, instead of blaming himself and his shitty parenting, he blamed his wife and began verbally and physically hurting his wife. He would hurt her so badly that she ended up having a mental breakdown, which resulted in her taking it out on Shoto by pouring boiling water over the side of his face that looked like his father, which is how he ended up with that scar. Now, obviously, Endeavor is not a good person. He is a garbage human being for neglecting and abusing his children, along with abusing his wife. Yet the path for redemption starts at an unlikely place when he finally gets what he wanted all along, to be the #1 hero. His redemption is far from over though. A majority of his redemption so far in the anime and manga is him realizing how much damage he caused to his wife and children. We're also slowly seeing some kind of positive trait, as currently Endeavor has exactly 0 positive traits to him, aside from ambition and slowly learning to be at least a little heroic. Though as I said, this is an example of a path of a decent character redemption. I would like to think that we'll get more moments showing Endeavor's positive traits, though I do think right now it's pretty okay so far. My favorite thing is that not everyone in his family is ready to forgive him, especially Shoto and Natsuo. Not to mention he created the villain Dabi by neglecting his son Toya. Everyone always compares Shoto to Zuko from Avatar for obvious reasons, right? Redeeming Endeavor is basically redeeming Fire Lord Ozai, which doesn't exactly sit right with me, and I'm pretty sure others agree with me there. Overall, I despise his character, but I can appreciate the writing at least. He still needs way more time as a character to feel actually redeemed and likable though. Akito as a villain, I think, fits the example of a villain redeemed poorly. While yes, we do see that Akito has a very tragic backstory in the form of an abusive mother and decent father. I say decent only because I think it was very poor of Akira to tell Akito that everyone she meets will love her, and that's honestly not realistic, and puts a toxic mentality early on that everyone has to love you the moment they meet you. But he also did genuinely love his daughter, so I can't fault him too much. Now my problem here, and I've met a few others who agreed with me on this, is that Akito is not shown any redeeming qualities and does not show one even minor attempt at changing at a person, up until she speaks with Toru and literally tries to kill her. Hell, she never even apologizes or owns up to what she did to everyone. I would like to remind you all that Akito has manipulated Kurano into sleeping with her multiple times when he clearly didn't want to, stabbed Kurano in the back, forced Kurano to stay with her after the curse, physically beat Kisa so badly she had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks, physically attacked Rin and cut off all her hair to humiliate her, mentally and physically abused Yuki for years and socially isolated him, stabbed Toru in the arm, physically attacked Hattori to the point where he can't see out of one eye and attacked his fiancé, pushed Rin out a window, which landed her in the hospital. And many more, but I think I made my point pretty clear. While we do find out that Akito's whole deal is that she's lonely and afraid, this level of abuse isn't equal. It's like writing a textbook abusive parent and then going, "Oh, they had a sad child though, so it's okay now." Like, no, that's not how it works. While Akito is to show the more realistic outcome for abuse in becoming the abuser yourself, the redemption of Akito is not enough. I'm sorry to say, but that final chapter of Akito meeting everyone after the curse broke and acts like a shy, innocent flower instead of doing anything to own up to her actions is such horseshit to me that it's laughable. Don't get me wrong, I love and adore Fruits Basket, but Akito will always be a villain I despise more than anything else, and I think has a very poorly written character arc. At some point, her redemption just boils down to her accepting her femininity, which, accepting whatever gender you are is not an automatic redemption card for years of abuse, just saying. And yes, Akito is a halfway decent mother in Fruits Basket Another. Remember that she also allowed Ren to roam around and meet her son whom tried to kill her immediately, which ended up traumatizing Shiki, so no, I'd say Akito is a stupid parent rather than a good one. Also, Ren is clearly mentally unstable. Why has no one ever tried to put her in maybe like a mental hospital or something? Because she clearly needs some kind of psychiatric help. Why do they just keep locking her up in that room if she always finds a way out? I don't know, I just think that part's really weird about Ren in Fruits Basket Another. Overall, Akito is not how you write a redemption. If you want to make a character who does bad things slowly redeem themselves, tone back what abuse they did and slowly show moments of them making an effort to change. Show us Akito slowly realizing from seeing Toru having fun in the distance or whatever that forcing everyone to love her isn't what she wanted. Show us more positive traits of Akito instead of her being an abusive bitch the entire time. And I don't mean in a mediocre sequel in brief flashbacks. Show us in the main series. Though I understand many will disagree with me here, I just think Akito's entire redemption arc is poorly written.
Let's go together, cocktails made up.
Now, this is a controversial one to put on this list, but I love Adam and his redemption arc. Yes, he beat Cherry with a skateboard, physically beat Reki pretty badly, and honestly almost killed Langa and himself. He still has enough about him where the good outweighs the bad in this situation. His redemption arc is pretty good in my eyes. I just think the finale needed an extra episode or at least an OVA to better establish that he has changed as a person and will continue to change. Not to mention that I feel like the writers did a somewhat rushed job at showing how dangerous S is. Remember that Shadow easily could have killed Reki when shoving those fireworks in his face? And burned his skateboard. All those guys that were trying to beat the shit out of Langa for racing against Joe too. So Adam beating Cherry with a skateboard and physically beating Reki is kind of the norm for S. Sure, it's extreme, but it's not that shocking in this world. It's like Fight Club, you know? Especially when the creator of Skate has been recently talking a lot in interviews about all this important canon information that she just couldn't fit into the series, which is pretty sad since this is information that would have really helped certain characters. Then again, I understand anime right now has to deal with a lot of production issues due to current world events. I should have said this in my review, but I wanted it to be spoiler free. I think Skate could have used a few more episodes near the end to flesh out some things more. Now, Adam is a tragic character. He was physically abused by his aunts pretty frequently and likely abused by his father as well, leaving him with a twisted sense of ideas on what love actually is. Until he meets Tadashi, who's the son of a gardener on the estate. Tadashi shows him how to skateboard, which their friendship, or obviously more if you pay attention to symbolism like I do, becomes his one moment of happiness in an abusive home. As a teenager, he starts sneaking out to skateboard in the streets where he meets Cherry and Joe, who he ends up befriending pretty quickly. Yet all these moments come crashing down when Adam's father finds out he was skateboarding and destroys his skateboard, banning him from doing it and even sending him to America. Tadashi, although working for Adam's father, had an opportunity to stick up for him, but he stayed quiet, which completely broke Adam's trust in others. He grew paranoid that everyone would betray him like Tadashi, so he needed to find someone who would be his true friend, or Eve, that would never betray him, where they could run away and skate into a void and eventually die, I guess? Someone took the lyrics of Lunchbox Friends by Melanie Martinez a little too seriously. While we don't know what happened in America, he likely had no way of contacting Cherry and Joe, and apparently stayed there for 7 years until his father died, where he moved back to Okinawa to take his place in what I believe is the Japanese equivalent of Congress. I'm a little stupid, and reading about what the Japanese diet is honestly very confusing. Yet when he's back, he opens S again and completely ignores Cherry and Joe, while he treats Tadashi coldly for abandoning him when he needed him most. We hear in his final thoughts with Lunga that he thinks victory is the only way to feel anything, because he feels that he believes friendship doesn't last forever and that everyone will eventually betray you. That's clearly why he physically beat Cherry. He wanted someone who could make him zone out, and wanted to quite literally push away his attempts at trying to help him, as he genuinely believes in that moment that all Cherry will want to do is hurt him again the way Tadashi did. Yet Langa opens Adam's eyes to how much fun it was to skate, and sets Adam on the right path of redemption. This is a major problem point with Adam. We don't actually see him make amends with Cherry or Joe. Instead, we're shown a brief epilogue where he comes in dramatically during a party to celebrate Langa's victory. Obviously he made amends with them, otherwise I think the scene would have played out pretty different instead of comedic. Adam's character, though, is worthy of redemption to me. I see a lot of comments on the internet making him a pedo or something, and I genuinely don't think he is. Remember, I'm saying this as someone who has talked about genuine pedo characters on multiple occasions. The creator of Skate herself has experience in writing pedo characters thanks to the series Banana Fish. There's a video I'm gonna try and link down below from Adam's English voice actor, who honestly does a fantastic job describing his character in ways I don't think I can, so that'll be down below. But my own belief is that Adam is someone who acts the way he does because he's both an entertainer and he wants to act like the complete opposite of himself in his normal life. There is also heavy implications of Adam as a clearly LGBT coded character as well, which I've read a lot of LGBT friends and fellow fans of Adam online that his struggles as a character was something they deeply related to. See, I think what personally makes a great redeemable character is charm and relatability. If you relate to the character or love the charisma they bring, it's so much easier to redeem that character in the eyes of the audience. Adam is just so likable, to me anyway, that a redemption is not at all a surprise. Though I would also be speaking as a grown adult here. I know a lot of younger Skate fans tend to despise Adam, while everyone around my age and older tends to love his character. Not exactly sure why, but I just thought that was a really interesting thing to notice among Skate fans. Overall, Adam is a great redeemable villain in my eyes. He just needed more time to flesh out his growth into redemption. Who knows, maybe we might get a Skate movie in the future where Adam shows his growth in denying someone a race that matches his old toxic style of skating, or something like that. But even now, I think there's room for fans to fill in the gaps. Myself included, of course. Writing a redeemable villain is always going to be one of the hardest things in the world to write for. Not every villain is worthy of redemption. While some do many things that it overall outweighs all the bad things they did, I hope that all these characters and explaining their redemptions in why they're good or bad helps you guys out in your writing. To me, I think the most important part in redeeming a villain is showing likable traits. Don't just have a character be nasty and evil all the time and then suddenly a cliffside talk changes their mind. Have a character slowly start to change their toxic mentality too, you know? Show us growth, because the most interesting thing characters can be is growing and changing the way people do. Though let me know down below what you think. Are there any good or redeemed villains you know of? I mean, I know I could put more here, but I knew this video was gonna get pretty long, so I stuck to 4 best examples I know. If you like this video, be sure to let me know if you want to see more videos like this one. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. And if any older new subs would like to help support the channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who would like to help with video ideas or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, then I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!